Welcome back to the last session. We were having an interesting discussion about OD. What exactly is development and what is change? And based on Kurt Levin's model, the entire discussion was focused. Now I request Professor Bharadwaj to continue the discussion. Meanwhile, I request all the students who are present at regional centers to raise such questions. Whatever doubts they have, they should raise them either through fax or through telephone. Thank you.
Welcome back. Now we have conceptually clarified what is OD. Now we go into the nitty-gritty details, how it is to be put into practice. So the first thing that we focus on is the operational components. What are the things that are required to put it into operation? So here we have, we start with that instead of the abstract problem that suppose somebody tells you that nothing is going in the right direction. It's a very abstract thing. You have to focus on real. What is not going wrong? Is it production? Is it human resource? Is it what? Where it is? So instead of going abstraction, one has to focus on the real part. And secondly, one has to rely on learning models. That how and why and what we learn. So different models of learning, input, output, then going through the throughput part, systems learning. There are different models. I don't have the time to go into details, but different learning models where the problem is diagnosed and what strategy, what action strategy to take, that is clarified. Then these operational components are closely linked with explicit goals and objectives. Something which is not implicit but which is explicit in black and white. That is one very important aspect. Then the diagnosis of the problem, action taking and goal setting are closely linked. They are not in different isolated compartments, but they are closely linked. If you are diagnosing something, what is the action that you are thinking of, and if you are thinking of the action, then how does it relate to goal? What kind of goals one sets? That is very important. Three are interlinked. Then another operational component is self-analysis and self-reflection, both for improvement at the organizational level, at the individual level. What am I getting? What is the weakness? What are the strengths? Some kind of SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities and threats. You can continuously do for the individual at the individual level as well as at the organizational level for the sake of improving. And the development operations must be data based. It has to have some data at its back and also experience. Data always doesn't help in taking actions, so we need experience to decipher the data, the meaning of the data, interpret the data. So data and experience have to go in hand. Now I had told you that I will tell you a little bit about action research. It's a long process of learning and being active. So it's not possible to tell you everything. So in a very compressed manner I can tell you that this is with a philosophy from which emphasizes that you go from passive, that is static, to active. Instead of going back in the history of it and then looking at the data, one has to take that into consideration, but we have to be active. This is why it is known as action research. Here, in brief, the whole model revolves around setting up an objective depending on what problems you had, what goals you had, planning about the objective, next future action, what are the action steps, analyze that, and fact finding. Then again, based on fact finding, one goes into planning. So this planning action step, fact finding keep on rotating around each other, and this is base, the apex, the main base is the objective for which the entire process has been put into action or put into life. Then first, in finding the objective, one can identify the problem area. Where are the main gaps where you are going into negative action or one has stagnated? That's also a problem area, stagnation. Organizational, career, design, everything can be stagnated. Stagnated means remaining in the same position, doing the same work all over again without any change, without any renewal, without any activity, without any interest at the end of the day. So identify the problem area. Then selection of specific problem. Not all problem are going to be your focus. You have to have specific problem which is relevant to reaching of the goals. Problem which takes you towards the goal. Say for example, if you have a area, a problem which is say marketing of something, any X product. Now, who is the target of your effort? Is the customer. That is your goal. In sales and marketing or in production, everywhere you are reaching to the goal, reaching to the customer. So, you have to keep the customer, the end in your mind when you are highlighting, selecting a specific problem. Problem for problem's sake is not going to take you anywhere. It has to be related to the goal that you have. Then, very important thing is careful recording of actions taken. You know, one of the fellow members of Lippitt, he kind of invented the flip chart. What is the disadvantage of having a blackboard? You keep on rubbing off the past data. Whereas in flip chart, you have the data. Whatever is written is stored for your consideration at any given point of time. So storage of data for the sake, and you know what, how he did it? He took the help of some newspaper officials where they had these newsprints available, which was spared, not used by them. So he used to bring those papers and stick them, glue them together. And that is the beginning of a flip chart. This is data storing, where you are recording everything. You don't know what is relevant, what is irrelevant at a given point of time. So you have that stored data that is recorded for actions taken. Okay, so this is where the action research becomes very relevant, very pertinent, very useful. Then inference from evidence. What has been happening here and now? That is very important. So whatever inference you draw, it is not out of hat. It is from the given forum, given evidence. So you have clarity, you have data, and you have evidence to support whatever you are going to take. So you become more legal, more valid. And this is continuous resetting. You don't have a static pathway that you have decided all your goalposts, all your indicators, and you are walking that. No, you have to continuously search and reset. This is the beauty of action research, that it helps you in renewal process. It is interwoven. It is not put from outside. It is an integral part. The renewal process is an integral part of action research, and this has one very important component, that is collective action inquiry. Whatever action inquiry, whatever inquiries about the action taken are there, it is not the job of one individual. Here is the starting of decentralization. It is not coming from a composite force. It is a collective force where the collaborative, where people are cooperating, collaborating, contributing, creating through each other. Alright, so collaborative action inquiry this is taking you from static to active, where you are enabled, empowered to see through your own actions as well as others' actions. Any questions? Now we come to a major domain, which is OD interventions. There are multiple OD interventions, but here I bring to you the major families. One is the diagnostic. The first one that we start is diagnostic, where what is happening? That the place of the person, place of the employee or the group in the entire framework of the organization. It's a kind of creating a collage where the person knows where he or she stands, where the group knows what is the position of that group, that collective within a large collective. So this is diagnostic. Where are the gaps? If you see yourself at the top, but the others see you at somewhere in the middle, there is a problem. So this is diagnosis, which is based on data, which is based on experience. Alright, there you are intervening to find out what is the problem, where is the gap. So this is a diagnostic intervention. It's a very useful intervention. This can be based on people's experiences, people's realities, people's involvement. One example can be that if somebody comes to you and said that people are not satisfied here, very demotivated, nobody is working, everything is, the run of the mill. Why it is so? One way of finding is through diagnosis. How people are seeing them in the entire framework. Where do they find? What bacteria is attacking which organ? This is if you want to understand it metaphorically. So diagnosis is a very important intervention, because if diagnosis is done that this is the problem, suppose interrelationship is problem, jealousy is a problem, then diagnosis itself will help people in understanding their position vis-a-vis the organization. Then we have team building intervention. Here you are creating a focus among a group of people who are goal oriented. Interpersonal relationships they culminate into teams, because what are teams? There are different persons, there are different goals, each person is assigned a role, and that person has to act in collaboration with the other person, and like the cycle goes on. So from interpersonal relationship, converting it to organizational related activities. So many leadership skills are, get their genesis, get started. Many skills are developed with the help of each other. There the team building becomes very important. People are focused, people are motivated, people are goal oriented. So this is a another very important intervention, which is, very popular these days. Then we come to intergroup activities. Organization is not, I had told you earlier also, not one group activity. There are multiple groups, lots of them. So one group has to function not independently. There, like if you have a train, if you have seen a train, there are different compartments. These are, if you take them as groups, The train is not these compartments. There is a movement. There is a synchronization of the movement. There is a direction. So all the groups in the organization have their own directions as well as organizational direction. Sometimes it may be, quite contradictory, like the traditional example of R&D activities, which is all the time spending money, and the audit and accounts, which is continuously trying to conserve the money, the resources. So you have one where expenditure is high, and the other group which is trying to put a curb on the expenditure. Now such kind of activities, diverse activities, can be managed in the organization if there is intergroup synchronization. This is an intervention where different groups, cross-functional teams are created, cross-functional activities are created where people are brought together of different groups. So intergroup activities is another very important intervention. Then it is the survey feedback where people get data at a large point, at a large extent. People come to know about each other. It's not, if it is large organization, it's not possible to know what is happening in Delhi by a Bombay person, if the organizations are two. Now take them as two groups. They cannot meet each other. They cannot talk to each other. They are too busy. They don't have the time. So what happens? Here is the survey feedback. You get some idea about what the other is doing, how people are interacting at different forums, and this data is made available by survey feedback, which can help in diagnostic interventions, which can be an intervention by itself, and which gives you the hardcore data. The reliability, validity are all established. Then we come to another one, another important one, education and training. This is where the skill development takes place through education. Some, faculty is brought in who have the job to train others, who have the job to educate others, so that the skills, competencies, attitudes, motivations, they are all affected. It's like a schooling program within the organization where people are empowered, enriched for different kinds of activities. And especially these days I find that in managing diversity, which has become a key question, education and training, that those interventions are of a lot of help. Largely they are responsible for enriching people, making them enlightened about what can be done and how the benchmarks to be reached, how standards are to be set. So this is through education and training, which is broad-based, more instructional. Then a question was raised on technostructural, that is technology matching the structure. Why does technology interrupt? It interrupts in a negative way when the structure, say group structure, interpersonal relations, teams, people's ideas of decision making, they are disturbed. They don't know what to do because of the advent of technology. So that becomes, instead of facilitating, that becomes a trouble creator. So you can have technostructural intervention by changing the nature of the group, nature of the function, nature of the work design, by bringing in components which are both technical and relate meaningfully to the structure. So this intervention is taken up usually at a large organizations where technology must match. Different kinds of orientations are developed then technology is introduced. So learning and implementation, they have to go hand in hand in techno-structural intervention. Then process consultation. This is done usually by say an outside member, where people are trained or asked to decipher their leadership skills, their ability to motivate, their ability to solve problems. That is intervening at certain process and seeing its effect, consulting each other, consulting the experts. So process consultation means that it is a behavioral mechanism. People's behaviors become the target. You can have T groups here, sensitivity training here, to a certain extent action research. Those things are parts of the process consultation. Then there is grid OD, which is basically an effort to create a grid. It is not haphazard, but stepwise development, creating a grid, that one after the other, how the different steps to be taken. Mainly the idea behind grid OD is that you get a composite picture of what actions to be taken, leading to what, and what is next. So starting from a basic action to evaluation to feedback. So a project is developed which is composite in nature and which has its boundaries, which has very focused objectives and goals, and the actions are pre-specified as far as possible. Sometimes you can even have the inbuilt evaluation, but grid one is, once it is developed, it is put into practice. This is continuing. Then there is third party peacemaking, especially in terms of unions coming to fight. You need some intervention from politicians. Sometimes when interpersonal level working, nobody is talking to each other, communication gaps are happening, rumors are becoming dysfunctional, grapevine is very rampant, communication has been replaced by grapevine. In such cases where the peace of the organization, the stability, the homogeneity of the organization is disturbed, you need a third party, where a person who is neutral or a group of people who are neutral, they come up and then they negotiate. It's like Indo-Pak war, and Russia, US are coming as peacemaking intervention. Same things happen in organizations too. That they themselves are not able to handle, resolve the conflicts, there the peacemaking efforts are by the third party, who is more accepted by both the parties, both the conflicting parties, and some peace processes can be put into place. Then we have coaching and counseling. Here it is more individualized, especially needed for people who want to develop, who are creative, who are innovative. So here some facilitation, some support to meet the challenges they want to create. The major part is individual coaching or group coaching, and then whatever the lacuna, whatever the problems, whatever the gaps, they are resolved, they are given a normal shape, a stable shape through counseling. So coaching and counseling, this can be done by internal faculty or external faculty. Both are acceptable, and these are now very important means for making organizations develop, grow, renew. Then we have life and career planning. This is another important intervention, because after some time one starts asking this question that what am I doing here? How my life is going to be supported and enriched. So there you need to tell the person that what is the future prospect. This is an intervention. How does he get assimilated? This is very important because these days lots of organizations are facing attrition. There is brain drain. People are leaving. So here is, if you are able to show people that how their lives and their careers get intertwined, then they will be able to find some meaning. Then of course there is planning and goal setting. You are brought in a tangible forum where you can make more meaning. Strategic management activities is through policies, planning, then creating strategies which are helpful to the individual as well as to the organization. Trust building, this is another very important intervention that is coming up. And organizational citizenship behavior, which I had talked about, that OCB, where people are made to perceive organization as their world and they get involved into citizenship behavior. Who is a good citizen? Who is a member of the civil society? Organization is your civil society. Now we come to change. The nitty-gritty details of the change. I tried to compress different aspects. There are forces of change. You can see there are driving forces, there are forces resisting, and after this we will come to individual forces and organizational forces. So let us look into the driving forces. What are the forces which drive you towards change? What are the internal forces? Internal forces is new technology. Every day there is a new software coming, so you want to practice it. You want to get involved into it. So this is one force that takes you towards change. Then there are changing work values. Nowadays, earlier the work was taken as a means for financial and other support for the family. So there was a bread earning. Now here is no longer the bread earner, here is a family man, he is a father or mother. The person is a holistic approach, that is changing work values. Work-family conflicts, they are now major topics of study. So this is changing values where you have to get towards change. Creation of new knowledge. Every day you get some kind of new knowledge. So how do you incorporate as an individual, as an organizational member? Then very important thing is internal product obsolescence. Sometimes many products are not relevant. Many services are not relevant. So to avoid that you have to keep on changing, and then there is a human desire for alternative. One looks for a change, because to avoid that feeling of stagnation, there you are looking for change. Then what are the forces that resist the change? Then there are individual resistance. Any change is going to create uncertainty. There is a fear of the unknown. Anything new and you are afraid of that. This is known as fear of unknown. Then people resist new learning. Why change? Why make that effort? That part is another important aspect. There is disruption of stable friendship or interpersonal relationship. If you are transferred, your family faces the music, your children face the music, you lose out your old friends, you have to make new friendship. So this, naturally people will resist that change, and any change brings distrust of management. They always ask, what is management doing? Why they are changing? Why they are replacing the old? What is wrong? Then look at the slide. There are environmental forces which are drivers of change, and there is organizational resistance. Instead of individual, we come to organizational. Instead of internal, we come to environmental. Look at the environmental forces. There is competition every day. There is competition in the environment. Everyone is trying to beat others. China trying to beat India, India trying to beat China, Germany trying to beat England. So there is a competition. That is a driving force. Consumer is changing. The consumer demands have become very different these days. So you have to change. This is a driving force. Resources are available. We did not think of taking up something that was made in other countries, but now that resource is available to us. Sorry. So then very important socio-political changes. What does one mean by that? The international change, global marketing has brought in a pressure that we change from socio-political point of view. This is a driving force. Manmohan Singh tells you how to change, what to change. So these are the demands that are coming from the environment. Then is the international change. That is very important. Whatever the world is open to you, you travel now abroad without much of problem, without much of financial constraints, but there are demands. So these are the forces. Then what is the resistance from the organization? You see, whenever change comes, there is a threat to power structure. With the advent of these websites, internet, the knowledge is available to all. Now the power holders who were having the knowledge are no longer the power holders. So the power structure, everybody is transparent, everything is transparent before you. So there is a threat to the power structure. People are little disturbed, out of their place. Then there is, whenever change, it changes the inertia, the momentum. So one loses out that momentum in which they were going. So that is also a resistance point. The system relationship is disturbed. Sometimes some group were more dominant. Now with the advent of different changes, that entire framework changes. So that causes resistance. Then of course very important economic consideration is whatever was there, they are sunk forever. If you have brought a PC which was first generation, now that whole cost is sunk. You cannot sell it back. I can't sell my old inkjet printer because that is obsolete. So the sunk costs and vested interests, they become a very important point for resisting change. Now we come to another important, who are the targets of change? The first target is individual personality. You are asked to learn. These days one is talking about learning organizations. So you have to keep on, even in old age one has to keep on update. So that is changing personality, changing your values, changing the attitude, changing the perspective. That is very important aspect of change. That is the target of change. Then diets. Diets means two persons, the power holders. Nowadays, no longer the Prime Minister or the President can behave in the traditional way. The CEO and his coterie can't behave in the traditional way. So diets, the power holders if it is between two persons. The groups are changed. These two groups, groups made of two people, interpersonal relations, they are targets of change. Then of course the group. Every group is asked to learn, change with the times. If they don't change, they become defunct. They are marginalized. So, to avoid marginalization, one has to change. That becomes the target of the change. Then there is this family group. The people who are working in the same way, like you can have a managers of belonging to marketing group or product group, production group. They are family groups. Their perspectives have to change. If a product has to change, if a service has to change, then the family group, one person cannot change, one organization cannot change. The entire, the most dominant positive example is this metro in Delhi. Now if metro is in Delhi, others metros like Bombay and Bangalore and Chennai, they also are following the metro culture. These are the family. Okay, so one family changes, it can't have its targeted impact. So there has to be a family group which is a target of the change. Then we have the entire organization. The whole organization takes up a new form. Like many organizations are taken over. Some of the organizations which were like Hindustan Levers, which was entirely focused on marketing, is now taking charge or buying up, merger, acquisitions are there of those organizations which were producing, and they are producing and they are marketing. So they have more products. There is diversity in product. This becomes a target of change. The entire organization, they have to change their perspectives. Then the organizational structure. We were talking about centralization and decentralization in the early stages. Here in this world, even the public sectors can no longer be centralized typically. They have to go for a mix of centralization and decentralization. No longer is a license charge. No longer is your ambiguity and non-transparency with the RTI Act. These are the targets when the entire organization is the focus of change. So change is just not a change for change's sake, that you take something here, put in a different package and sell it. It's not that. You have to be development oriented change. This is the main message that is coming up, that whatever change you think of must be having a perspective. Why it is being done, how it is going to be done, who are the targets, who is going to be affected. Okay, and we have to come to the civil society. Any organization has to come back to that member who is a member of the civil society. At the end of the day, how that person is going to be affected. So no longer can the courts ignore the public demand. They have to open up. As an organization, they have to open up. We have Priyadarshini Mattu, we have Jessica Lal. These are reopened cases where the civil society demanded. So the entire organization, the perspective needs to change. And that's all. If you have any questions, please, you are welcome. I am leaving 3-4 minutes.
Can you throw some light on how to overcome this resistance to change? So whenever we want to bring some change which is essential for an organization to grow, there is some kind of resistance among the individuals.
Yeah.
So how to overcome?
This resistance is inevitable. What we can do is reduce it, and that reduction process can be through coaching, counseling, taking up any intervention. Like, people are told, things are made transparent. People are in the know that they are not going to lose their sense of direction. They are not dabbling with uncertainty alone. This is very important for reducing that resistance, because resistance comes whenever there is threat. When you convert the change into opportunity, which is made transparent, which is made available, plausible, feasible, that can be converted into goals and objectives which are reachable through action research, people's participation, people's involvement. When they are put into practice, this resistance is reduced. But I can't guarantee that it will be going away forever. It will not. Because resistance is something which makes us aware of the pitfalls, what we may not have visualized. Resistance brings that force into practice. So resistance is not always negative. There is some positive element. The confusion that is created, we can convert it into creativity. And resistance that way helps in enlarging our vision, our policies, our strategies. So some resistance is required, because then there will be autocracy if there is no resistance.
Yeah. Maybe to bring about change, some kind of initial dialogue between the employees and the top management has
participation,
to be there.
democratic processes,
Yes.
then bottoms up
Yes.
strategies. They can be very helpful in bringing the opinions, views, experiences of people who are going to be affected, the customers, the bottom line employees, the implementers, the frontline managers, the supervisors. If they are consulted and also given that kind of assurance that whatever hitch, whatever doubts they have, they are going to be taken care of. So this assurance can help in reducing some level of resistance. Otherwise, if there is pure resistance, there is a possibility of high attrition level. People will leave. People will have distrust. They will not be functional. Howsoever good the change may be, it will not be effective.
Thank you. I think we had excellent presentation by Professor Gopa Bharadwaj, and it was very informative, and I feel that this was very useful to our students, and I thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.